Alright everyone, welcome back to what seems like it has been forever. Today we're going to get back into the Walking Dead All-Out War, and we're going to start up what is the final expansion, Fear the Hunters. This is going to be Chapter 1, Return to the Farm. We're going to start back out with some pretty spinny shots here on the turntable. We'll show off the board, and then we'll get into the scenario itself. So this is going to be Chapter 1, and the narrative says, after the near destruction of the prison at the hands of the governor, Rick and Carl are forced to hit the road alone. With danger around every corner, Rick struggles to keep his son safe and his own sanity in check. So we're going to start out the game, and we've got Carl back there, and all we have to do is get Carl from that side of the board to this side of the board. Now this is supposed to be played on a 20 by 40 table, but space is kind of limited right now, so we're going to shrink it down, and we're going to play it on a standard 2 by 2 table. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. And you're here because you want to watch some gameplay anyway, so you don't mind, right? Let's talk about the survivors. Carl is going to have his lucky hat, and he's going to be carrying around a tire iron, and this is the trainee sharpshooter version of him. Carl is going to have his dad to help him out. Rick is not going to start on the board. He'll come on a little bit later. We'll talk about that as we get to it, but it is going to be the slowly unraveling version of Rick, and he's going to be carrying around a normal hatchet. Later into the game than that, Michonne is going to come onto the board. This is the wandering nomad version of Michonne, and she has a standard katana. Because Tyrese survived way back in the video that we made from his encounter with the governor, Tyrese is going to be included with Michonne here. This is the really pissed off version of him. It is the blinded by rage Tyrese. He has no weapons, not that he needs them, because he's going to be rolling a whole lot of red dice. And then the final two survivors here are going to be Glenn and Maggie. Now I don't have the appropriate miniatures for these. I got some horses, I got some figures. We're going to make it work. So we're going to have the prison guard version of Glenn instead of the one that the scenario calls for. And we're going to have the prison defender version of Maggie as well. So we're going to start out turn 1. The threat is going to start this game on 1. And like I said, all we have to do is get Carl from his starting edge off the other side of the board. There is one special rule that comes into play here, and it says cry for help, and it says Carl must use at least one of his actions each round to perform a make noise action, and he may not enter any walker zone. The walker zones are going to be where the black truck was, the entire walker edge of the board, and then where the huge billboard was over on Carl's right side there. And this rule is going to last until another survivor moves into base contact with him. So we get 2 actions, we're going to move for 1, and then we have to make noise with the second action. So the first thing Carl's going to do is charge ahead 8 inches towards the trees in the middle of the board. So Carl goes ahead and sprints ahead 8 inches, and that's going to pull in the closest walker to him, which winds up like that. And I'm going to go ahead and say that Carl can't perform his second action because there's now a walker in contact with him. So this is not going to allow him to use that cry for help action. We got no other characters on the board right now. This is going to be a very quick game, so into the walker phase, there are no kill zones to check for. That one walker is right in contact with Carl. Let's go ahead and do our first event card. And our first event card is going to be Pandemonium. So we are still in all quiet, so +1 to the threat will take us up to 2. Each player rolls a white die and moves that many eligible walkers in the direction of their choice, which here will be in the direction of Carl. So let's go ahead and do that. So go ahead and roll the die. We roll a 1, and we move one more walker closer there into Carl. It's going to take us right into the melee phase, so we're going to up the threat by 1 because we have combat. So we are now at threat level 3. We're going to take Carl and spin him around so he's facing the walker, make it a little bit more dramatic. There we go. And now we're going to have our combat. So we're going to have Carl versus one walker. This version of Carl, I'm going to go over it this first time, and then we'll just get right into dice rolling in the future. Carl's going to have 1 red melee as his base, and then he gets a extra white because of the tire iron that he's carrying. So he's going to roll a red and white against 1 purple for the walker. And again, we'll explain this here at the beginning to avoid confusion moving forward. After I roll the dice, I'm going to face them towards the camera so that you can see what the roll result was. So here, Carl rolls 3 successes, including a headshot, against the 1 success for the walker. He's going to go ahead and remove him from play because of the headshot. So that walker comes off the board. That's going to be the end of turn 1. The threat is going to move up by 1, again, because of solo play. So we are going to start turn 2 at threat level 4 at low threat. So the top of turn 2, the threat is at 4, and that is low threat. The rules say that once you hit low threat, you can bring in the rest of Group A, which means that Rick can now come onto the board. So we put him in contact with the deployment edge right there, and now we can go ahead and take a turn with Rick. And remember, this is the crazy version of Rick. So Rick has an unstable rule and says at the start of each of Rick's activations, before any panic dice are rolled, roll a blue die, and then this is how many actions Rick can take this turn. So let's go ahead and do that. So we rolled 2, and we're going to go ahead and take a standard activation with Rick. So the first action for Rick, we're going to go ahead and try and lower the threat. So we're going to roll the black die, and on a badge, we will lower it. On a blank, it's going to stay at 4. Rick comes up with the shield, so we're going to drop the threat back down to 3. We're going to take his second action now, and he is going to charge into that walker that is up there next to his son. So Rick charges ahead there into contact with that walker, and we'll try and spin the board a little bit. You can see that we pulled in another walker that was kind of close to him over there. See if we can get around this way without bumping anything. Yes. So for Carl's second turn here, he is going to continue to try and make his way off of the board. So we're going to move forward what would be 8 inches, but because we're going into the wood line here, we're going to have that distance, and he's only going to move 4. So we'll see how far in that'll get him, and then again, that noise is going to draw in a walker. So go back to the spinny cam here, and you can see that Carl has made it into the wood line, and the noise has drawn in that other walker kind of behind him there. He's got to use his second action to cry for help. That's going to create noise, and that's definitely going to bring that walker into contact with him. And Carl is going to be fighting for his life in the woods now. Alright, so Rick and Carl have gone down there, and I'm sure you guys are letting me know down there in the comments that I already messed up. So during deployment, I'm supposed to have Group B on the board at the start of the game as well. Group C is going to come on when threat reaches medium. That is Glenn and Maggie. So you can see over here I got Michonne and Tyrese that missed out on turn 1. They're not going to miss turn 2. Let's go ahead and start with Michonne. And she's going to move over and probably tear up some walkers. And actually, I think the thing we're going to get her to do is to run ahead and try and clear out a path for Carl coming out of that brush there. So she's going to go full on 8 inches forward. And that's going to pull in Grandpa Walker there, who was trying to go into the ambulance. And then for Tyrese, he's also going to charge ahead 8 inches. And I don't directly want to get him into combat because he is going to crank up the threat level very quickly. We'll see if anyone's drawn into him. So Tyrese runs forward, and we can go ahead and do the walker kill zones while we're here. We're only going to move that one guy into contact. Everyone else is outside of range. So it looks like we're going to have everyone in melee combat. Before we get into any melee combat, we're going to have to go ahead and pick our second event card. So we'll do that. And here we come up with Surrounded. So again, +1 to the threat. It's going to take us back up to 4. And all threat levels, the player with initiative chooses one standing survivor, friend or foe, place the kill zone over them, and roll blue. That many walkers immediately enter play. Instead of being placed at the edge of the board, are going to be placed on the outside edges of that template. If there is not enough room, place as many as you can and increase the threat by 1. So let's go ahead and dump a bunch of walkers, probably around. So we're going to choose Rick, and it's not because I want Rick to die or anything like that. It's because he is at the back of the board, and we need to get Carl off of the front side of the board. And in addition to Carl, 2 additional survivors need to make it off as well. We've already got Tyrese and Michonne up there. They can make it. Glenn and Maggie are going to come in from that side of the board. Maybe they can make it. Who knows? Maybe Rick will survive, and he'll make it off the board as well. We'll see how it plays out. But anyway, we rolled a 2. We brought on Penny and the punk rock zombie in the back of the board here near Rick. We're going to up threat by 1 to 5, go into melee combat, and because we're looking at Rick, let's go ahead and start with him. So we're going to go ahead and spin Rick around so he can face the walker there, and this is the slowly unraveling version of Rick. His base is 2 red for melee. He has a hatchet, which is going to give him an extra white, so 2 red, 1 white against 1 purple for the walker. And in the first combat there, Rick rolls a 2 with no headshots against 1 for the walker. So we're going to move that guy back an inch and mark him as prone. And next we have Carl back there in the woods against 1 walker. So we'll see what happens here. Nothing's going to get in Carl's way today. He is a walker killing machine. He rolls 3 and a headshot again against 1. So we're going to go and remove that walker as well. Over here on to Michonne. Michonne's Wandering Nomad version rolls a blue as her base and a blue for the katana against 1 purple for this walker. So Michonne's going to win that combat. She does not get the headshot, so we're going to mark that walker back an inch and prone as well. She does have a follow-up attack special rule, and that says once per turn, if Michonne wins a melee, she may move into base contact with another standing enemy within her kill zone. Resolve this new melee immediately, even if 1 or more combatants has already fought. So Tyrese is back there fighting that walker. She's going to slide back into combat with him. Not that he's going to need any help to get rid of that guy though. So Michonne slides back into this combat back here, and she's going to help out Tyrese in this fight. Tyrese here is an absolute monster. He's going to roll 3 red dice as his base, and then it says he has the Raging Special rule, which says Tyrese adds 1 extra to the threat level whenever he fights in melee. While the threat level is high, he adds an even... While the threat level is high, he would add an additional red to his melee attack dice. This is why I wanted to keep him out of combat. We're going to up the threat by 1 again because of that to 6. And now we're going to have Michonne with 2 blue, Tyrese with 3 red against 1 walker's purple. It's a good thing Michonne went back there to help out. Tyrese only manages to roll 1 hit out of everything there. The walker rolls 2 with the bite, but because Michonne comes in with a strong 5 successes and the headshot, they're going to remove that walker from play. At the end of turn 2, we're going to have the threat go up to 7. And before we start turn 3, we're going to roll for a couple prone walkers. So we're going to roll the black die on the shield. The walker is going to stay down. On the blank, they're going to get back up. So we'll start back here with this guy next to Rick. That guy's going to stay down. And then back here for the first walker that Michonne fought, he manages to stand back up. All right, so we're at the top of turn 3. The threat is at 7. We're going to start out this time with Michonne. Remember, we got to get some players off of the board edge, including Carl first. So we're going to try and clear a path for him. We're going to take Michonne and get her to run 8 inches over here towards the board edge behind the old man. Probably putting her somewhere near... Where's that guy at? Let's not drop everything. The prison walker there, the Bob Marley looking guy. So let's go ahead and move her. So we'll do some board spinning, and we're going to move Michonne into contact with him. You can see we are running right past the supply markers. There's 6 of them on the board here, but I'm not really in a big hurry to pick them up. So we're going to move her past him, into contact with that guy. We'll go ahead and pull in the closest walker as well and try and really make a hole over there. Michonne's a big girl. She can take on 2 of those guys right there. Let's do the same thing with Tyrese and move him. So go ahead and move Tyrese up, and he's going to pull in the Hillary Clinton looking walker over into contact with him. And they are pretty close to the board edge. Carl is back there in the tree line still hiding. We'll get him to come out and play too. Before we go ahead and move Carl, I don't think anyone actually came into contact with him, into base contact. Rick got close. I don't know if they touched or not. I haven't gone back and looked at the video. We'll say that he didn't. Let's have him go ahead and cry for help before he comes out of the woods and see if the old man there can get into contact with him. So that's what a 6-inch shamble move is going to look like when Carl cries out for help. So Mr. Belvedere makes it into contact with Carl in the woods there. He hasn't had any problems with any walkers all day long. I don't think that guy's going to give him any trouble. We got Rick back here who is kind of surrounded by some dudes. Rick is going to try and go through the wood line as well. Do we go through or do we go around? Let's take him and run him around. We can probably get a little bit further that way. So we're going to go 8 inches around the woods. We'll probably draw in this guy down here. So Rick goes around, makes a run for it, and like we thought, he pulls in that walker that was over there by the truck. He is getting closer to the board edge though. And before I get too far into it, I forgot to roll for Rick's unstable action back there. You can only roll a minimum of a 1 on a blue die, and we only took 1 action before the walker ran into him. He can't do anything else. Slap my own hand on that one. I should have known better. Alright, so we'll set the camera down here and look across the board. We might have some kill zones to check for this time. Let's go ahead and drop some templates and see if we can move anyone around. And on second thought, nope, no one's going to go anywhere. Let's go into the next event card, which is the Hunger. So +1 to the threat takes us to 8. We are at low threat. Each player moves 1 eligible walker towards the nearest survivor. So I'm the only eligible player. Let's move a walker. So I think you can see that all the way back there. We moved the guy back here in the green hat that kind of looks like Ernest out of the corner and almost in contact with Tyrese. Got a lot of melee combat here. Let's go and up the threat by 1 to 9. It's going to take us to medium threat. And at medium threat, Glenn and Maggie are going to come on the board. So we're going to put them over here between Walker Ronnie and the guy having a snack. And they can take some actions in the next turn. As we're going to start the melee phase here, and you can see over there, there's 2 horsies. I told you I didn't have those miniatures. So we're going to say that the brown and white horse is Buttons, and that's going to be for Maggie. And the horse just fell down. Hopefully it's not even foreshadowing. He belongs to Glenn. So we're going to start melee with Rick against the 1 walker right here. So Rick is doing really well at knocking walkers down, just not out. He rolls 3, the walker rolls 1, back an inch and prone. Let's go ahead to Carl against the 1 walker in the woods. Right, Carl is also going to win combat, so we're going to knock that guy back an inch and prone as well. We'll slide out here a little bit, and we're going to have Tyrese against 1 walker. Remember, when Tyrese is in combat, he is super angry, so we're going to up the threat by 1, up to 10, and we're going to have him against 1. And now Tyrese is able to roll the headshot that he needs, so he's going to beat her off of the board. And then we're going to have Michonne against these 2 guys right here in the front. So even though the no walkers are outnumbering her there and they get to roll 3 dice because of that special rule, she still rolls 3 and the walker is totally blank. So both of those guys are knocked back and prone. Got a bunch of prone walkers to roll for here. We're going to up the threat by 1 to 11 going into the top of turn 4. Let's roll for these prone walkers and see if anyone stands up. We're going to start with the 2 up here by Michonne. So she manages to go 50-50 and the 1 guy gets back up. Quiver by Rick, and we're going to roll for him. And then we'll roll for the walker by Carl. And we go 50-50 again. The walker by Rick gets up. The 1 by Carl stays down. Let's start out turn 4. We're going to have the threat is at 11. We're going to start out with Rick this time around. We're not going to forget to roll that blue die to see how many activations he gets. So let's go ahead and do that first. We get to do 2 things. First thing he's going to do is move into base contact with Carl, because he can do that. So he's going to move into base contact with his son, tell him to calm down and quit hollering about everything. And his second action, we're going to try to drop that threat down. And remember, we're looking at the die facing you, which is blank. So threat stays at 11. Way to go, Rick. All right, so we're going to go to Carl now. And remember, we just need to get Carl from there, past those guys, to right down here off of the board. So let's see how close 8 inches can get him. So we're going to come out of the tree line, right over here, behind Tyrese. It's going to pull in that walker near to him, though. That's okay. He'll take care of him. We're going to take Tyrese now and see if he can lower the threat. And after that, he's just going to move into contact with the walker next to Carl and help him out. So Tyrese is able to roll the badge. We're going to drop the threat back down to 10. And then he moves over into contact with that walker. Michonne here is going to just move into contact with the walker right in front of her. Not the prone guy, the standing one. And that's going to leave us with Maggie and Glenn over here. Those guys are on the horses. They can move 12 inches wherever they want to. Maggie also is able to just drop the threat by a white die's worth. So we're going to go ahead and do that with her first, and then move her 12 inches over here towards the center of the board. So Maggie does really well. She rolls a 2, drops the threat back down to 9, and charges all the way over here with her horse. Draws in the walker that was next to the ambulance there. And we'll go over here to Glenn. His horse stood back up, at least for the time being. We're going to go ahead and move him 12 inches also. So Glenn also moves his pretty horsey 12 inches. and that's going to pull in this walker over here. That is all of our survivors moving around. We got some kill zones to look for this go around. So let's spin this around and move some walkers. All right, so we move around a couple walkers there. The one moved into contact with Rick back here, so we can focus on him. He's in contact back there. Glenn's horse fell over again. We'll see what happens with our next event card. And maybe focus. There we go. No hope. So +1 to the threat. We are back at 10. All threat and low we'll skip because we're at medium. Medium, all survivors treat their nerve as 1 level lower than normal. And this is going to remain in play. So we're going to have a bunch of panicking going on in the next turn. Yes. Alright, so before the next turn gets out of hand with a bunch of panicking and whatnot, we're going to do melee here. So up the threat by 1 to 11. Start out with Rick against 1 walker. So again, Rick wins combat, but just does good enough to knock him back and prone. Let's back up and let's do Carl and Tyrese against this guy. And they have no problem getting rid of this guy. I'm going to go ahead and give the headshot to Carl and say that he is just continuing to eliminate everyone. Now we're going to have Michonne taking on this single walker here. So Michonne, much like Carl, is just continuing to clear the board. We got some new combatants here. We have Maggie, who is the prison defender. She's taking on 1 walker. Maggie has 2 red as her base, and she has no additional equipment with her. Maggie's going to go ahead and remove her walker from play. She did just enough there. So now we got Glenn against 1 walker. Glenn has the slippery special rule, and it says at the start of any combat in which Glenn is engaged, before any dice are rolled, he may roll a black die and try and get out of it. I'm going to try and stay in this combat so we can get rid of the walkers to hopefully get off of the board next go round. So Glenn as a base has 2 red dice for melee. He has no extra equipment, so we're going to roll that against 1 purple for this walker. And maybe the horse falling over was some foreshadowing there, because Glenn is the first person to lose a combat. He's going to lose 1 point of health and have 4 remaining. We're not bitten though. So at the end of combat, we have lots and lots of prone walkers. That guy there, those guys, that guy back there is still down. Let's just roll for everyone, see who gets back up. We're going to up the threat by 1 to 12, and then we're going to come back at the top of turn 5. And at the top of turn 5, the threat is back at 12. We do have the no hope card in play this time, which says that all of our survivors have to treat their nerve as 1 lower. So a good number of our people have high nerve. That's not true. Really, it's just Michonne and Tyrese that have high nerve. Everyone else is medium, so they're going to have to treat it as low, which means they got to panic this go round. We are that close to the board edge, which is going to suck because I just need these guys to get off of the board. A single move will allow them to do that. So let's see if we can. We're going to start out with Carl and see what he rolls on the panic dice, and if he can just walk right off of the board here. So I had to pause there for a second and read the special rule on Carl's character card, and it says he is vulnerable. If Carl is in the kill zone of a friendly model from the same faction, that model will not panic. The only people he's in the kill zone of is Tyrese and Michonne. They're both high nerve, so they're not going to panic anyway. Roll the panic dice for Carl. He gets the question mark, which means he can do 1 single action, and all we need him to do is make a 4-inch move off of the board. So let's go ahead and get him to do that. All right, so Carl makes it off of the board, and it says we need to get 2 other survivors off of there with him. We're not going to do Maggie or Glenn. It's probably Glenn is still standing, actually, because they have medium nerve, and we have to treat them as low. So we're going to go with Tyrese and get him to make 1 move off of the board, 4 inches. That'll give us 2. And then we're going to go right to Michonne, have her do the same thing, go around that walker, and take her off of the board as well. So we go ahead, we move both of them off the board. It's going to give us a victory on this one. Let's see if we can get Glenn to fall one more time. Now he's going to stand up. All right, whatever. So we managed to win the first mission of the Fear the Hunters expansion. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We're able to shake that fence down back there, but Glenn's still standing. If you guys haven't heard, Mantic is going to discontinue this game. So I hope you guys enjoy these videos. Some have even learned how to play watching them. Maybe not from this one, because we did mess up on some of the rules, but it's been over a year since I played this. So we're trying to get back into it. Use some scenery that we haven't used before. Get some of that terrain crate out there on the board, like this stretcher down here. That stuff's not painted, and it kills me because everything else is. I don't have all the models to play all these games, but we'll make do with what we got. Make sure you guys come back for the next one. I think Abraham, Rosita, and Eugene are going to be out there in that one. And we have all of them. They're all painted. It's going to look great. It's going to play great. So like, comment, subscribe, and come back for that one.